What is an authority? Can an authority turn you into a killer? Or can it fool you into giving away all your life's hard-earned money? If you think this is not possible, then this video would be an eye-opener for you. In this video, I'll be sharing the learnings of a famous psychological experiment and also how it may happen to you by giving example. You will also learn the wisdom of how to protect yourself if something like that happens to you. Hi, I'm Robin Sharma. This video is a part of a video series in which I share the knowledge of various psychological experiments with you. Such kind of knowledge can save you from a lot of pain. Like this kid who could have saved himself from a lot of pain by placing himself differently had he just known the contents of this box. Today, I'll be sharing the learnings of the famous Milgram experiment. In this experiment, 40 well-educated professionals, ranging from company presidents to plumbers, were invited to participate in a research. During the induction, an authority, which in this case is a man in a white coat who has a fancy lab and technical tools, explained that the purpose of this experiment is to research the effect of punishment on learning. The video that you see is the real footage from that time.
Better known theories of treating the book over there, the teaching and learning process by Cantor. One theory is that people learn things correctly whenever they get punished for making a mistake. A common application of this theory would be when parents spank a child who does something wrong.
Participants were made to believe that they are being randomly chosen to either become a teacher or a learner. Once the roles to be played by each participant was established, the experiment required the acting teacher to ask questions from the acting learner through an intercom connection. Hence, they did not have any direct connection with each other. The catch was that with every wrong answer, the learner would receive an electrical shock administered by the acting teacher. And the experiment also required the acting teacher to increase the intensity of shock with every wrong answer. The intensity of shock ranged from mild 15 volts to lethal 450 volts. And then a series of questioning and the experiment began. And as the experiment progressed, so did the shock intensity and the pain of the learner. The teacher, on hearing the painful howls of the learner, wished to stop a number of times as he requested the coordinator, who was sitting in the same room as the teacher. The coordinator simply asked the acting teacher to continue. When the intensity of current reached 180 volts, the learner wished to get out of this experiment and communicated the same to the acting teacher.
Neil, you're going to get a shock, 180 volts. Can't stand it. I'm not.
Even then, the coordinator kept asserting the instructions that the experiment requires the teacher to continue and the experiment must continue in the same manner. The painful howls from the learner kept intensifying, and at one point he refused to answer. Even then, the coordinator kept on insisting that the experiment must continue and it requires the teacher to continue. Then at one point, the howls of the learner stopped and the teacher kept on increasing the intensity of voltage and kept on giving the shocks to the learner. Just because an authority, in this case a man in a white coat, kept asserting the instruction that he must continue. What would you have done in such a scenario? Would you continue to give an electrical shock up to 450 volts to an innocent person? Also note that there was no threat or aggression from the coordinator's side. Still, the acting teacher continued and completed the experiment by giving the maximum shock of 450 volts to the learner, even when the learner had gone unconscious a long while ago. When the experiment was over and the acting teacher was asked why did he continue to give the electrical shocks to the person, he could only reply that he wanted to stop, but the other coordinator would not let him. When asked who was actually pressing the button, the acting teacher could just say that he wished to stop.
But why didn't you just stop? You wouldn't let me. I wanted to stop.
The result of Milgram experiment shocked the whole world. The result was that more than 50% of the participants actually gave the full range of electrical shock just because a man in white coat asked him to do so. This experiment has been repeated a number of times, getting almost the same results. At this point, you may feel that the world is a bad place and people do not care for each other, but you could not be further away from the truth. Let's now understand the real situation. Well, from the time we were hunters, humans survived because they followed a leader, an authority who knew exactly where they were going. It could have been a tribal leader, a king, or someone highly proficient in their subject. Saying no to an authority back then was equivalent to committing suicide. The time has changed, but our mind is still programmed in the same manner. If our mind accepts someone as an authority, then it's almost impossible to say no to that person. Every authority from the time we were hunters until now has had a symbol that differentiated him from the average crowd. The symbol includes everything from the way a person looks, where he lives, the kind of people he surrounds himself with, the kind of equipment they're carrying, and much more. Only after analyzing everything around a person does a mind accept someone as an authority. And once the mind has accepted someone as an authority, it gets really difficult to say no to that person. Fortunately, in Milgram's experiment, no one was hurt because the acting student was actually an actor who had removed himself from the setup and never got any electrical shock. Imagine the consequences if it had been a real situation. This phenomenon had been seen during the Holocaust, when mass murdering of Jews was carried out not by the soldiers but by the fellow Jew members under the authority of soldiers. Now that you understand the history and experiment, it's time that you understand the solution that will protect you from committing an ill act. Our mind perceives someone as an authority through his symbols. Like in Milgram experiment, there was a big lab in a prestigious college carrying high-tech equipments operated by people who were highly proficient, confident, and knew exactly what they were doing. Such a setup is always impressive, and it should be, because these kind of things are not easily earned. However, the time you realize that the authority is asking you to do something against your conscience, take a step back and do a short editing in your mind. Keep that person and the full setup in your mind and start removing all the symbols. Strip off the clothes that the person is wearing and let him be seen in normal clothes. Remove the complete lab, turn all the equipments into toys, and once that is done in your mind, ask yourself this simple question: does this authority really know what he's doing? Does this man really know what he's talking about? If the answer gives you slightest of doubt that this person doesn't know what he's talking about, then walk away, take a break. And during the break, ask yourself this again: does this man really know what he's talking about? Is he really the authority over his subject? And if the answer brings slightest of doubt, you have your right answer. Thousands of times we have heard of people who have been scammed with thousands of dollars in schemes like double your money in 6 months, 1 year, or such kind of ads obviously sound very bookish, but still people find themselves investing in such schemes. Why? Because when they're meeting a crook, he seems like an authority. He seems like a person who knows what he's talking about. And even though our mind always has a doubt, it is still unable to say a firm no to that person. Because scoundrels have a game that they play. Their game is perfect. Their game starts with showing that they do not need anything. They have everything that a man can dream of. These kind of people will show that they already have a big bungalow, an imported car, an office in a great location, filled with working, highly professional, smart people all around. All this is nothing more than a symbol for you. Symbol so that you can accept them as an authority. And once you do that, they can sell you anything. In all such moments, if you ever find yourself in doubt, just remember, do a mental editing and focus on their symbols. Turn all these symbols into toys. Turn everything they've shown you to influence you into toys, or just remove them out of equation. And then ask yourself, does this scheme make sense? Is this man really an authority over his subject? and if there's slightest of doubt, you walk away. Finally, I summarize, our mind is designed to follow an authority. An authority can be anyone who is perceived by our mind as a leader of their subject, not necessarily because of their wisdom, but their symbols. And symbols are not limited to clothes and what the person owns. It can be more than that. It's what the person is carrying, the aura. It could be a politician's coat, can be a Baba's coat, and even a naked man can be seen as a symbol. And once someone is accepted as an authority by our mind, they can make us do anything. Thus, be aware. I hope this was a useful video for you. If you have any feedback or an experience with such a situation, then please comment below. I thank you for watching. Wish you love and happiness.